What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 3. It's Chris and Forrest, and we are here for our big Tundra reveal.
That's right, Chris. And as you saw in episode 1 and 2, we put a lot of exterior accessories, wheels, tires, and suspension on this truck. So we've had some time to test it on-road. It performs great on-road, but we're here today to test it off-road.
That's right. We came out on this beautiful sunny day. It's like 45 degrees. We're in Central Florida. What's up with that? But we're here to put this truck through its paces and see what it can really do. So let's go. All right, well, I'm about ready to get these aired down to about 20 PSI to give us a little more comfort and traction on the trail, and we'll get going.
And as you can see, we did decide to keep the Bushwhacker fender flares. We were unsure in the beginning. However, they just seem right for the build. They fit the stance of the truck really well, and hopefully it'll keep the paint a little bit cleaner while we're off-roading. Now, we did have some help with the clearance on these tires due to the front bumper. It will fit with the factory bumper. Some trimming is required, however. Now in the back, we did cut the cab mount and then weld a plate on top of it. That's a common modification on these Tundras because that cab mount tends to stick out a little bit, and it does give you more clearance when you're starting to push the envelope on tire size.
So, I got our next stop pulled up on the GPS. We just finished hitting a couple of whoops, whatever you want to call them. Hit them too fast, I guess they're whoops. But Forrest was railing it through there, and that was a lot of fun. So then we did a little bit of crawling and some soft stuff afterwards. Did a little spotting for him, but I don't know, man. The truck through that high-speed stuff felt really, really solid. This Icon setup kept the truck super planted, very controlled, very smooth. We have our CDCV valves set. I think I set them at like 5 out of 10, maybe 6 out of 10 on the front since we're carrying a little extra weight up there. And the rear is a little bit lighter. It's like 4 out of 10 or 5 out of 10. It's one step below the front. We had it set up a little bit differently when we first put the truck together. The back felt a little stiff, so we went ahead and softened it up. But Forrest, man, I gotta say, it was super impressive. The truck feels really, really good so far.
And I know you've experienced trucks with off-road setups and Icon coilovers and stuff in the past, which I haven't. So I was probably a little bit more surprised and amazed than you were. I've never, taken a truck off-road like this with a suspension setup like that. So I was really surprised. It kept good traction, kept the tires planted, never felt uncontrolled or anything. It was really surprising, even at speed too. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, and I know with a lot of Adaleafs, the rear of the truck can get pretty stiff. But even in the back so far, we haven't seen any axle hop or anything weird out of the back. It still rides super smooth, doesn't feel oversprung or anything. So definitely pleased with how that's come out. So the other thing we haven't talked about yet is that I'm happy to say we've been pretty close to rub free so far this trip.
That we have.
Yeah.
Even at full, we've been turning the tires quite a bit while flexing, and we've been pretty good. A little tight right here.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't in the truck for, a lot of the technical stuff. I was kind of outside on the radio, but I didn't hear any rubbing, except for one little time, and it was on the body mount. So Lord knows how much rubbing we would have had if we hadn't have cut that. I actually don't know that we would have gotten it out of the studio garage.
No.
But pleasantly surprised by that. Certainly after we put the bumper and the winch on, I was a little concerned that, the decrease in ride height might impact, what we did to mitigate the rubbing with these tires, but so far so good. I think if we're gonna have some, we'll get it up here though. We'll see. See, this is the part everybody comes out here us included, all kitted out with big tires and winches, and they're running 4-wheel drive, and you got your traction boards and all that stuff. And you think you're doing all this hardcore stuff, you're posting to the gram. Look how cool we are. And you come on this trail, which if you can't see in front of us right now, is a road. And you pass probably several Toyota Camrys or other hybrids just out in the forest for a cruise. And it takes all the fun out of it. We're so overland. Go where no Camry's gone before. I'll tell you what, I know the tire pressure has definitely contributed. You can feel a little bit of squirreliness in the tires since they are running, you know, they are down a bit on pressure, and that makes the ride smooth, but this suspension has been awesome. And this truck isn't, well, it's not that high mileage. I guess there's 40,000 miles on it. It's not new. It's gonna have a little bit of wear and tear, but it's drives great.
It's lower mileage than any truck I've ever owned, Chris.
Oh, that's true. By the way, this looks super
Holy smokes.
This will be fun.
You're thinking it can go through that right there in the center?
I've driven my truck up it. It's not.
Your truck's more nimble than this, though.
Hasn't been this rutted out, though.
This looks crazy. You gotta go this way. There you go. This tire was up against the wall. Yeah, it's that rear tire.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Rear tires all the way up to the wheel.
You were getting traction on the front, on both tires. Right here, where this comes up just a bit. Right up there.
All right. Let's try it.
You know, only took like how many tries?
Hey, you gotta find your way in life, you know?
Right?
Pretty good.
It scraped a little bit.
I'm
Good
impressed.
articulation.
You see how high up?
Yeah.
They were eating that wall, man.
You
That's
had to
impressive.
climb the wall.
Yeah, they climbed it well. You can
I
see where
can't
your hitch
believe
was-
they held on to the side of that wall. That was awesome.
You can see where your hitch was scraping back there, and at the same time the tire was getting stuck. While we're up in this obstacle, we figured it'd be a great time to show you our ADD Stealth Fighter front bumper. This bumper fits our build excellent. It has a KC 40-inch curved light bar, as well as recovery points front and rear, and we have a Havoc 9,500-pound synthetic line winch that'll make sure to get us out of any sticky situations.
Now, probably the biggest benefit to this bumper, and the main reason we chose it, is because it's high clearance. You can see here how it's nice and tight to the body line. Now, if you're looking at some of the footage we've already shot today of us going down the trails, you can see the benefits of that. It opens up the front of the front tires here, allows us to put the truck where it needs to be without worrying about body damage with the stock front bumper. We've used it multiple times to get the truck up and over tough obstacles that we probably wouldn't have been able to do otherwise.
Now, when we got the Tundra, they already had the Havoc HSD steps on them, but they turned out to be the perfect step for this truck. Now, they're not a traditional rock slider, although we've already had contact, and as you can see here, they hold up really well, but they also work as a very functional step with a nice wide step area. Now, they also keep gravel off of the truck's paint quite a bit better than a regular step would.
All right, well, you guys saw us install this Putco VentureTech rack in episode 2. It's a new rack to the market and it has a lot of really great features. Super versatile. On this side, you can see we put our MaxTrax traction boards. These are great when you don't want to pull a winch line. Really easy to throw under the tires, sand, mud, snow, whatever you need, you can throw them under the tires, even use them to dig yourself out a little bit, but you throw them down, drive over them, get moving. On the other side, we actually opted to mount a Rotopax fuel canister. Big tires, V8, gas mileage isn't great, so anytime we're running a little low on the trail, it is nice to have that bailout option.
But wait, there's more. We also have the Gator HR1 hard roll-up cover. This fits perfectly between the rack rails, so we can still have a waterproof, secure space underneath the rack, so we didn't have to sacrifice any sort of bed utility.
All right, well, Forrest, before we air up and get out of here, what are some of your parting thoughts on the build?
So, first thing is I'm honestly blown away by the suspension. I have little experience of actually driving a Icon or any sort of off-road coilover suspension, so that was really neat. As far as parts I'd like to see in the future, I'd really like to add a deck system just to get a little bit more bed utility, because you can roll this cover up all the way up against the cab and get it out of the way, so you don't really lose a whole lot of bed space there. But just for all sorts of equipment like this, we can put it inside of the deck system. I'd also really like to mount a tent on top of the rack.
Yeah, I think a rooftop tent would definitely be nice. Big fan of those, and it'd be great to get this truck out on some overnight weekend trips. Now for me, I do agree, the Icon suspension is definitely killer. It soaked up everything we threw at it today. Some of the more high-speed stuff, the truck was super smooth, super planted. On road, it rides like a dream. The other star of the show today for me were these Wild Peak tires. They gripped everything we threw at them. Obviously, they're gonna slip a little bit in the deep sand. That's to be expected. But outside of that, over the more technical obstacles and everything else we threw at them, they bit into the ground and just didn't let go. So great traction from those tires. And again, we didn't really trade any on-road performance either. They still roll really nice. Probably the smoothest rolling mud terrain I've ever driven.
And on-road, they're surprisingly quiet. For mud terrain also, I was really surprised by that, so.
Yeah, those were two really nice additions to this build.
All right, well that brings us to the end of our Tundra build series. I want to thank you for taking the time to watch all 3 videos. In case you missed any of those, you can check out the links right here to get all caught up. We put some really great parts on this truck. If you're interested in learning more about those, you can check out the links in the description.
All right, and if you enjoyed this video, we'd appreciate it if you'd hit that like button in the corner below. And if you guys have ideas for what we should do next or things we should have done differently, drop those in the comments and subscribe to our channel so you can stay tuned for future updates. Thanks for watching.
That was money.
Done.